the last part, spending some time on our Save Peplo for elections and working with Piper Sandler on that, specifically with the approved building.
No on the left.
Okay, so now we will move on then to board committees.
Really, in the last month, there's been a lot going on in meetings, but we haven't met as a committee. For anything, we finalized stuff with obviously finance already and the facilities committee, and then policy map a little over a month ago, and we'll finalize some of those things tonight. So if there's any updates there.
And we'll move on to recognition
Sure.
of excellence.
Yeah.
I'll read that.
That's okay.
The boys track team competed at the 1A high school state track and field meet in Drake in Des Moines, Iowa on May 16th through the 18th, just this past weekend. Following athletes and events competed at state. The 4x800, Dawson Krakis, David Poppin, Cale Ryder, and Ben Byers. This relay won the state title, broke the state meet record.
Okay, thank you.
And a school record,
Mhm.
7
Yeah, no
minutes,
problem.
58
Thank you.
seconds, .47. This is only the second 1A team ever to be under 8 minutes. So very impressive performance. Today I was talking to the boys, trying to get them to shoot for the overall state record. I think they only need 17 seconds.
Only? That's a lot.
It's only 4 seconds apiece.
A couple of them said they could do it.
I took off 28 seconds from last year, so
You know, see?
you never know.
Never doubt. No. 400-meter dash, Dawson Krakis finished 22nd. Distance medley, Tate Marco, Dominic Marco, Riley Getzel, and Ben Byers finished 3rd. And new school record, 3 minutes, 35 seconds, .3. The 4x200, Tate Marco, Luke Heilman, Dominic Marco, and Riley Getzel finished 7th. 400-meter hurdles, Tate Marco finished 13th. The 4x400, Dawson Krakis, David Poppin, Cale Ryder, and Ben Byers finished 8th. The sprint medley, relay, Tate Marco, Luke Heilman, Dominic Marco, and Riley Getzel finished 11th. The open 800-meter, David Poppin finished 15th. And in the 1600-meter open, Ben Byers finished 5th and also established a new school record, 4 minutes, 25 seconds, and 1/100th. Vocal, the high school concert choir students participated in the IHSMA State Large Group Contest on May 4th, Saturday. They achieved a Division I rating from all 3 judges, and overall a Division I rating, and one of the judges granted us a perfect score of 40 out of 40, which is pretty rare. Our April Generals of the Week, April 5th, elementary, Quinn Eddy, middle school, Cade Lushin, high school, Becca Wobler, and Haven Felix, staff, Christian Avila. April 12th, elementary, Mateo Mejia, middle school, Leah Molitor, high school, Sam Schnepp, staff, Amy Renner. April 19th, elementary, Larissa Luchins, middle school, Carson Renner, high school, Taylor Langstrat, middle school, Julie Schuler and Maria Mans. And then April 26th, elementary, William Hernandez Alvarez, middle school, Riley Childs, high school, Ava Daigle, and staff, Lindsay Helmers. That's it for recognition.
Very much. We will go on to our discussion items, and we have our instructional coaches presenting to us. I guess I'll go first. I had sent you one, but I maybe didn't get it to you. But it's okay. I can just use it to guide my notes, or guide my notes.
Would it be this?
Yeah, it would be that. Thank you. Okay, so you can go ahead.
Oh, wait, sorry.
Okay, so this year, I'm just doing kind of a wrap up on what I've done done throughout the year, getting the high points, because there are no low points, right? Coaching cycles as requested. Coaching cycles is one of the things that I think I probably struggled with. It's hard to force a teacher to do a coaching cycle. It can be suggested. Nobody wants to be forced to do anything, so, but I have, even though I haven't done a complete coaching cycle with a lot of teachers, I still work with a lot of teachers. So as requested, meeting with them, giving them support as kind of whatever they need. Support with interventions, math and reading mainly is where we do our interventions. Just having materials, things for them to use. Testing, I help with the FAST testing. This last testing round for FAST, our testing team was only 4 people, so since Barb's position is no longer next year, they decided, let's see if we can do it with 3 people. So they did a really awesome job. The one thing is, in the spring, you don't have to write as many plans as you do in the fall. And that goes into Panorama, so every student who has an intervention, you have to write an intervention plan for them. That takes a huge amount of time. I do a lot of progress monitoring to see how the kids are coming along through their progressing during their interventions, and then reviewing data, looking at their graphs, looking at scores, letting their teachers know how those things are going, and then just providing extra materials for math and reading. Okay. Tutoring. I said to Barb today, there's one thing I'm really not going to miss, and that's tutoring. It's a lot of work to organize tutoring. We had about 15 tutors this year. They focus mainly on reading and math skills. About 2/3 of the time is spent on reading, 1/3 of the time on math. Approximately 50 students were tutored during the year from K through 6, and that will continue on into the summer. Some of those kids met their benchmark the last round of testing, but we don't want to take away too many supports at one time. And with summer coming, quite often we see what's called a summer slide, and we don't want to see that if they don't have that extra support during the summer. So the tutoring for this summer is set up. The tutors who are going to be working are contacting parents and arranging schedules, so that's going along pretty good so far. And then we'll have Jump Start right before school starts. Tutoring will be for about 6 weeks. That's fine, give me one. MTSS stands for Multi-Tiered Systems of Support. That's where I probably spend the bulk of my time, is some type of work through MTSS. Last year we developed a flow chart, and what the flow chart does is when a teacher comes to us with a concern about a student, what do they do? So they can see on the flow chart, this is the first thing I do. I meet with Lindsay. I let them know that the student is having problems with maybe reading or math. It might be a behavior. They would meet with Janelle Jensen, the counselor, and then we look at some different things that they can try, and then we bring them up for the MTSS team if things don't go, if we don't see improvements. So then we bring them up to the MTSS team. We kind of talk about some different interventions we do. We keep track for at least 4 to 6 weeks on if these interventions are working. If they are, that's great. If they aren't, it's kind of back to square one. Maybe try a different intervention, see why the intervention isn't working. Were they absent? Was it being done with fidelity? All those different things. And then sometimes if they're brought up to be put on an IEP or have a disability suspect. So there's kind of a long process, and it can take a while, but that's part of it. It just takes time. So try to go as quickly as we can, but we also want to make informed decisions. We work as a team. There's 4 of us right now that this year who have been our core MTSS team. Next year, with me leaving, that would take us down to 3, so we asked Mike Anderson to become a part of the elementary MTSS team, classroom teacher, so that we have that perspective. He also did come to us this year to many of our meetings, so we felt that he was a good fit. He's also worked in the SPED room. He's worked at many different grade levels, so he's got a lot of background. We have referrals as far as academic and behavioral, and it's always a team decision-making process. It's not just one person deciding this is what needs to happen for this student. It's a team, and we go through a lot of questions, we discuss a lot of stuff. Sometimes the meetings get a little long, sometimes there's disagreement, right, Ken? But we can usually come to a consensus, so. And then just transition. For me, I'm going to be transitioning out of the school, and Barb will be transitioning into my spot. This is just some things that I know that she will be able to do. She will support the teachers. She knows everybody very well, so that's a big plus. She'll be spending a lot of time read. Barb she loves to read, she loves to listen. She loves to listen to murder podcasts, but she's gonna have to listen to some other kinds of podcasts too. That's where I get a lot of my research-based information, reading and listening. And then one other, we just kind of laughed about this today. I said, if you get asked to sub for music, follow the lesson plans. Because I was asked by Mrs. Madsen or Kent, if I would fill in for Mrs. Madsen. I'm like, yeah, music, you bet. I'll sub in music. So I told her, I'll write the lesson plans. Don't leave me anything. I'll do it. Can I use instruments? She goes, which one? All of them. I want them all. So, okay, I went in there. Oh, that was the longest hour and a half of my life. 3 classes, 2 kindergartens, and a 1st grade. I don't think I'll ever forget it. I don't ever want to see another instrument. I said, do not sub for music. So, and if you do, follow the plans. Don't go rogue. So, that's my wrap up. So I'll turn it over to Katie.
Well, I have found when I sub for music, the best thing to do is sing opera. It's hilarious, and they love it every time they see you in the hallway. Like, that's the opera singer. Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. So backing through Lindsay, so I'm the 7-12 instructional coach, and I just wanted to give you an overview of the 4 main areas that I've spent the majority of my time in this year. And the next one. So individual teacher support, testing and data support, our mentoring program, and then our CAPS program is new for me this year. So when it comes to the individual teacher support, coaching cycles, like Lindsay said, are one of the focuses I like to just kind of guide our teachers in. Coaching cycles are very unique in that the teachers get to select what they want to focus on for their personal and professional growth. We have robots, which I love technology. So this robot, the swivel, goes on a tripod and it goes 360. So wherever the teacher is in the room, it'll record what the teacher is doing and saying. What I love about that for coaching cycles is that the teachers then watch themselves afterwards, and they can pick what they want to work on based on what they've seen of themselves teaching. So it's very objective, and it's very personal to them. And I've seen a lot of growth just across the 7 through 12 staff who have chosen to do the coaching cycles with the robot because they get to see their own growth. It's not me telling them what I see. It's very much them seeing their own results. Co-planning units and lessons has been very big this year, especially with different changes. For example, Maria Mans and I are working on some of her curriculum changes for next year with her seniors right now. So it varies based on the teacher who needs support, but it's always really exciting to work on planning new units and lessons. Co-teaching is another place that I spend a lot of my time. 8th grade English this year has been one of those classrooms. So we've been working on grammar and writing, which is always their favorite part of the day. But they've made excellent growth, so that's been exciting to see. resource support for our teachers when they need to find things or need new ideas. Classroom management support has been huge. Student observations, our professional development plans for our teachers, and then technology support where I can. The next area that I spend a lot of my time in is testing and data. So the 7th and 8th grade students take the FAST test every fall, winter, and spring, and there's 2 tests that they take with that. So we do a lot of pre-testing prep, making sure the teachers have what they need to be able to do the tests well. Day of support, because there is always something that goes wrong or some technology that needs a little bit of assistance. And then with makeup testing, making sure that all of our students have taken the test if they've been absent. And then a lot of the testing data, I love spreadsheets. I love it so much. So we put all of the data into spreadsheets so we can see their growth, we can see the regression, and then we can decide how to help them based on that data. And then the same for ISAST, helping the 7th through 11th grade teachers with all of that pre-test, prep day, and makeup testing, and then entering all of that data 3rd through 11th grade into spreadsheets to look at growth and regression. So that's all part of that. Our mentoring program, what's really nice about our mentoring program is it's in-house. The thing is asking our veteran teachers who have practiced APL consistently over the last 5 or so years to sign up to do video recordings, so that when our new staff come in and we talk about the hit, run, push, pull, which isn't literally hitting anyone, but it's an academic strategy, that I can show them a link and they can watch a 10-minute clip of a teacher actually doing the strategy. So that's one of my recent projects. We talk about teacher ethics, making sure that everyone understands the do's and don'ts of our profession, the stages of a first-year teacher, which is very, I think, enlightening for them to see what they naturally will go through, that they're not odd if it's a struggle or if it's hard. Observations of their mentors or veteran staff, working on their professional development plans. That's been really a focus this year, is making sure that their professional development plans are talked about and worked on with their mentors and with myself in our meetings. That way it's not like they have 2 different professional developments. Mentoring and their professional development plan is linked. And then we have district-specific trainings and discussions based on the time of year. One day it was just making sure everyone knew what to do for their ISAST testing. So that was something district-specific. The mentees meet with their mentor once a month. That's just mentor and teacher collaborating on what they need together, and then they have to reflect on their monthly growth with any of the strategies or topics we're talking about, and that would be their only work as far as assignments go. That's the mentoring program. And then CAPS. So I had the privilege of becoming one of the CAPS instructors this year alongside Judy Haken. Next year, Judy Haken is stepping out, and then we're bringing in Tristan Bramer and Carly Klein-Hesselink. They're going to be partnering with me in hopes that I can train them, and then I can step out the year after so that they can take the program over. So if you don't know what CAPS is, it stands for the Center for Advanced Professional Studies. It's an excellent opportunity where we partner with NCC, so students who take it earn 3 elective credits. It's 2 class periods per day, and this year we held it at the Sibley City offices. Students come in business professional attire. Our first part of the semester we focus on professional and durable skills, communication, organization, handshakes, some of those things that you might not think about, but for our students it's very fundamental that they learn. And then once that part of the semester is over, we work with our local businesses and organizations where they take on projects for them, and they work on solving problems or creating solutions. So specific examples, 3 of our associates worked with Ace Hardware, and they developed an employee handbook for them that they'll actually be giving to their new employees. And then we worked with the City of Ocheyedan, the Catfish Club, and the Senior Center, and Borenson's Bees. Each of them wanted different signs or murals designed. So what's really exciting is on Highway 9, you'll see the City of Ocheyedan sign. That's been designed by our associates, and it's in the works of being created and being put into place. The City of Ocheyedan also wanted their Senior Center sign on Main Street to be different, and that's currently being created in Worthington, and that'll be up soon. And that was designed by our associates. And then Borenson's Bees wanted a mural at their Verbo that they're starting in Ocheeden. And so 3 of our associates created the mural for that, and that's in the works to be painted. So it's really a cool program that our students get these professional and durable skills, but then they get to put them into practice and create these relationships and add value to our local businesses and organizations. Any questions that you would have for me?
How many kids were in the CAPS program?
So we had 6 students this year.
Saw a couple of those CAPS posters at graduation.
Yes.
Parties and looked like a really cool program. Glad you guys are able to get that started. I have a question, and maybe either you or Lindsay could answer that. What's a typical coaching cycle look like?
Absolutely. So I think it'd be different based on our context. I can start, and if you want to do,
Yep.
you do it. So what I do is I do a pre-meeting where we meet and we talk about kind of what the teacher wants to focus on. Then we record a lesson that they teach, and then we look at the recording and we say, is what you think you need to improve on match what you see in the video? If so, then that's our goal. We write a goal, and then we monitor that goal for a couple weeks, and then we retape again to see how close to that goal we've gotten. And if we haven't gotten there yet, then we do another week or 2 cycle of whatever strategy we're implementing, and then we tape again to see if they've met that goal. So it's kind of nice because then they get to monitor it and see if they think that they've met the goal. But that's how I've been doing coaching cycles.
What I've done, my most recent one was working with a teacher as far as math, kind of an intervention, but working with the student in the room so that she could see how she could work with that student in the room and still have the rest of the class, which sometimes can be kind of tough, and then looking at what type of intervention you're going to use and looking at the scores to see if the student is making progress. I've probably done more modeling and working with small groups alongside the teacher, those types of things. It's always kind of different. There's
Subjective.
probably nothing that's the same from one cycle to the next unless you're using the camera. We did get a camera to use at the elementary now also, so. Yeah. Any other questions? No? And Barb, do you want to say anything coming into next year? No?
They just said that they were presenting, and I said I would go along for support. I don't really have anything to say other than I will be in that role. Give the information next year.
So I was hoping someone would ask that question. I was going to point out with the coaching cycles, so it's important to realize they're not admin, they're not evaluative, right? So when they're doing a coaching cycle, they're not going behind the scenes to Kent to know, oh my gosh, they're not, it's supposed to be they're considered teaching staff, instructional staff, and as a support. You could have a veteran teacher say, you know what, my bell ringers aren't very good and we want to work on that, and as someone to go to that they don't feel like if they're behind, overwhelmed, need help curriculum, need help with just management, that it has to go to, the big bad admin and be scared of that. You can go to a fellow teacher, instructor, and kind of get that help and support, and that's kind of how that program is designed and intended to be.
At our most recent TLN meeting, they showed us a new, I don't know how new it is, but it's a program that I think has been around a while. I wish I would have known about it 8 years ago, I know that. It's called Classroom Checkup. And so I said to Janelle Jensen at the elementary, I'm like, okay, I know there's only like 16 days of school left, but you need to do a coaching cycle with me because I want to see how this works. And it's an online, it's free, there's no fee for it. And we went through a series of questions, and then I answered a series of questions. She answered a series of questions. We looked at what values are most important to her, kind of sorted through a stack of different cards that had different actions on it, and where would you place them, what's most important, and whittled it down to about 3 or 4. And then I did an observation, went through and did another checklist, and then I was able to just share that with her, and she could see what areas might be good to work on, and it's a really cool program, and I wanted to see if it was as cool as it sounded, and it is. So hopefully, Barb, that'll be really helpful to her next year. It's all kind of laid out for you. And the conversations you have is what is really, really nice about it, because Janelle and I met for probably an hour and a half, and I said, oh, I'm sorry it took this much time, and she said, no, this was really good. This was really a good conversation to have, so, yeah, and they don't have to be that long, but it covers curriculum, it covers classroom control, it covers just all sorts of things, so, yeah, about 5 different areas, I think, so, yeah, it's a good program, so hopefully you'll have to check it out.
Are you surprised at how many requests you get from teachers, or you're not?
Sometimes it's slow, and then all of a sudden, they all come at once, and you're really swamped, but that's okay, every day is different. And I know when I started this, I asked Michelle Groton Heiss, who was a coach in Orange City, MOC, I said, can I just follow you for a day, see what it's like? She said, no, 2 days are the same. And that was the truth. They're all different. Yeah. So sometimes you do get a lot of requests, sometimes not so much. Then you have time to do a little reading, do some research, look into different programs and stuff. So, yeah. Any other questions?
The question I was gonna make, gladly said, thanks for your presentation. I was gonna make 2 comments with that number. I wrote it down to remind myself. You notice how much of their job is like data, which is something maybe 10 years ago. That'd be a fair statement. We didn't do like that. And if they weren't doing it and supporting our staff, this job would still have to be done, right? So I think that's a big part of that, and we thank them for doing that. And the other thing, I kind of cheated because I saw Katie had shared her presentation, so I knew she was going to talk about CAPS, and so that's why I kind of glossed over that in my presentation, but to let her do that. But the CAPS network, that's one of those things that we do that we get support from through the AEA, and kind of going all in here, that's one of those things that just won't look the same moving forward. They're not supporting that in the same way, and there's a lot of behind the scenes work that the AEA and Jordan had done to coordinate with all the schools. So that's one of the reasons, you know, and as our roles change and we have 2 new teachers coming in, why that we're looking at, and why I mentioned behind the scenes, we're looking at having Jordan be a work-based learning coordinator here 1 day a week, getting that AEA contract for that. Sharing with them is to provide support with that, and then just the other job embedded work-based learning opportunities, whether that's school to career or anything else, is the importance of that, because we won't have that connection with other schools through the AA next year in that particular position. So just kind of an example of kind of the impact of the cuts to the AEA.
So Jordan will not be working for AEA?
He is, but not in that role. So the only time he's doing some of that CAPS.
Full-time with AEA?
Yes, but it'll be a shared contract, so the only time he's gonna do the work-based learning stuff is when he's shared with the school. So that'd be right now us, Sibley Cheatham, Boyden Hall, and Central Lyon. The 3 of us are using him for very similar purposes. There might be little specifics difference in sharing. And then we'd have about 11 grand. They're working on those details, but to pay for it to have that. Some of that's offset because we paid that for CAPS fees and things in the past that we're not going to be able to have now. So if we didn't have Jordan in this role, it would be tough for us to truly, with fidelity, do the CAPS program and other work-based learning opportunities like that, because we want to have that collaboration and behind-the-scenes support that's critical for it. So the AEA, their board is meeting tonight to look and approve that, and then we'd look at approving it next month. That's why I'm just presenting it to you guys tonight, or just letting you know about it tonight, I should say.
With potentially a new high school counselor, that it is Jillian's role for the high school. She coordinates that. We feel like that's another good opportunity to support potentially a new staff member that hasn't done that before. So.
Do we have any idea how many kids are interested for next year? Have they Or when do they sign up for that?
Yeah, when do they sign up and do you have a limit? And it said 3 college course credits you get. Is that just a general credit or is it a certain area those college credits go into? I just have an upcoming junior and I know he's taking college courses and all about going to school and getting stuff done before college, so.
Absolutely. So it's 3 elective credits through NCC. So when I pitch it to our students, I say, no matter what degree you're going into, you'll need elective credits.
Right.
So that's
Yep.
fantastic. Right now, we have 4 students signed up. I have a 5th that said he was gonna sign up. He just doesn't have his name on JMC yet. The tricky part about CAPS is that it takes up 2 class periods in a day. So next year, thankfully, with the change of schedule, it'll just be 4th and then 5th period, and 5th period technically isn't a class next year. So that's helped a lot, because this year it was 7th and 8th period, so if you have juniors wanting to take it, it can conflict with some of their required classes, and that's been the challenge in the past. So right now,
It was all seniors this year.
and this year was all seniors, yes, there were 6 of them. So I've been talking to juniors and seniors. Hopefully, we can have a few more in there. I'd love to see 6 to 10 CAPS associates because we do have a very good list of projects from our community of business who are looking to have projects done by our CAPS associates. So it'd be nice to have more. And based on what I've seen this year, I think it's, regardless of what you're going into, it'll be beneficial for you. So yes, hopefully we get more, and I don't think there's a limit to signing up until the fall, correct?
Yeah, schedules can change up to 3 days into the start of this semester.
Okay.
So if they come back in August and decide they want to do CAPS, they've got a few days to do that.
And I will say, I'm
or
looking for
now.
more projects from the agriculture side of our community, so if there's any board members who would like to talk about CAPS projects, I am very available, / have a business card.
Then we can find something.
Yep. I was thinking about it.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Next, for School Board Appreciation Month, we just want to thank you. I know it's a busy month and you guys have a lot going on year round, but it's more than just the 1 month, or excuse me, 1 day a month meeting. You know, there's a lot of other conversation and things and events that you have to attend or take part in. So we really appreciate your efforts. And I know this isn't necessarily indicative of the amount of work you put in, but through ISB, I just want to thank you guys for what you do for our staff and our school, each and every day.
Okay.
And I know sometimes it can be a thankless job, but I want to tell you that I'm thankful for all your efforts and hard work that you guys put in, so thank you very much.
Okay, moving on to our 2-minute board policy and finance moment.
So I just put a couple things that I thought would be relevant here. So just for our free and reduced numbers, this does not mean what our numbers will be next year. Obviously, next year, depending on who signs up for what, those percentages will be in place. But different funding streams and things that we apply for the next year, always depending on what they are this year. So we had to put in what our initial estimates this year from a month this year for some of our at-risk and other funding streams. So when we entered that, I thought this would be good to represent and show. And so when we did this, the month that we pulled for this to submit to the state, the elementary was at 59.3% on free and reduced. That means either they qualify for completely free meals or reduced price meals. So if you think of the elementary, that's almost 60% of our elementary. Middle school's 53.1, and then the high school was 49.2. So overall district-wide, that was 54.3%. And just, you know, over time, some of the changing demographics. I don't have anything to compare this to other schools right now because that's not published information. You know what I mean by that? Next fall, we could look into that and compare. And I think one of the board meetings earlier this fall, I compared the current ones from this year, and I think we were the highest in the conference, second highest in the area, if I remember right at that time. And I would imagine this isn't going to change, but that just gives you kind of an idea of what we have as a population, not only in our school district, but just our city and our county right now, just kind of a reality with that. It is important if people qualify that they take that opportunity and fill it out. That's not something like we use to turn in to get people in trouble. I think there's sometimes that perception, but it does help with some of our funding mechanisms. So it's important for us to have accurate representation of that. And then the other number, and then I'll take some questions on these here, but the other number I wanted to represent with House File 2612, setting the new teacher salary minimums, 47.5 and 60,000. I think I've talked a little bit about how what that has done is for districts like us, when we have reduced shrinking budgets and lower enrollment, what that's done is that doesn't give us an opportunity. It's great to raise teacher pay, but not to address the other issue that it brings up is compaction, right? And so right now, out of roughly 61 staff, now that is assuming 2 unfilled positions, the elementary SPED position and the high school counselor position. That's not included in these numbers. If we would fill those, it'd be out of a higher number. But out of the 61 staff remaining, we would have 13. It had been 14 before some recent resignations, but it'd be 13 out of the 61 then are at the 47.5 for next year, this is, right? And then 19 out of the 61 would be at that what they call the veteran minimum, the 60,000. And I think you know just from our hires, we don't have 13 new staff next year, right? So that means obviously some that are beyond their first year or beginning next year are all grouped in that same salary level right there. And it doesn't mean we have 19 people that have veteran experience that are at the same level either. So it's good to increase teacher pay. That's a good thing. We're happy that happened, but it didn't necessarily address for schools like us some of those other issues, what I'm going to call salary compaction. And so that's just a little bit of a number to show kind of the reality of what that is. So any questions on those numbers right there?
When we look at state funding, does our free and reduced numbers affect what we get from state funding?
Not necessarily per student general fund dollars, but it can help with some of our at-risk dollars. And sometimes those secondary funding streams, we can have some additional resources or mechanisms of support that come in from that. So that's where the real benefit comes from. Yeah, that'd be a great example, title funding, things like that.
Anybody else have any questions? IASB training.
So funny, I had this on here for a while already, and then I don't know if you guys had a chance to check your school email or not today. Did you guys get one from IASB too?
Yeah.
Okay, that was coincidental. That was not planned when they talked about how many hours, and you can look on if you log in how many hours of training you have to reach that. That was totally coincidental. It came in, and then one of the options they gave is what I have on here. That was not planned either, but I had seen that. One of the things, if you watched the webinar and then did the presentation, was it was a session recap webinar that some of the people from IASB did. I watched it and I thought it was really informative, at least from a school perspective. So you don't have to, but that would be one if you did that. And let me know by next board meeting. We could, all that watched it, I could upload and then you get an hour's credit for that. So the PDF this is just the slides that went with it here, that they kind of followed in that presentation. And then when they're talking about the legislative recap, so that's what that PDF is, the slides. And then the recap is the second link here, and then it should bring you to.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm
there it is, but linked YouTube that you should be able to get into. It's just an unlisted YouTube address, but you can go and it's about an hour, 58 minutes, and then it gives kind of the overall legislative recap from IASB's perspective, and they have about 3 other people that talk and give some good perspective. So that'd be one thing to kind of update you on some of the legislative things dealing with school finance, school laws, things like that you could do. One of the other things then that I wanted to talk about is this link here. And I'm not logged in, but I think I can still look at is some potential workshop topics. So I would like to have some discussion and see if you guys are interested in having Luann come back at the end of the summer, early fall, and do a training with us. These are some of their potential, what they call their custom workshops. We did this bottom one, and obviously they always tailor some of the things, but that's what we did back in August, right? Is that when we did that one? August, that new superintendent and board leadership, establishing a strong foundation. We did that one in August. Obviously Jennifer wasn't here then. That was when Kyle was still on the board. But here's some other examples of ones. You can make custom ones, but these are their, or district specific, but these are their general customly made ones. The ones that I thought would be good for us, this is just an idea, suggestion, would be just on some vision and goal setting, strategic planning. And so that's kind of where when I put in the two suggestions would be strategic planning or the team vision and goal setting, just to give us some direction, because we haven't done that the last few years in terms of long range goals or vision casting. That would be my 2 cents on that, on what you guys' thoughts are.
I always thought they've been good when we've had them.
She does a nice job
Yep.
tailoring it to our district and our board, yeah.
And not that this is the end game, but to get the recognition next fall, I think 3 of you are out at whatever, how many hours that by doing this. And watching we have to October 31, I think it is, but watching that hour webinar doing this would put us over put you over the educational hours for the year. Not that that's the only reason we do that, but it's a perk, right? Any of those interest you? Thoughts?
I don't know what it pertains, but board self-assessment.
Right here?
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
They give kind of so governance teams are most effective when they foster a positive culture focused on improving instruction and student learning. An ISB facilitator, that'd be Luann, more than likely, will provide a culture of excellence and innovation that focuses on the school community, on student learning. That's kind of the description there. How about this? I'm gauging we have interest.
Yeah,
Maybe
for
needs
sure.
to take some time to do this. I don't want to wait all the way, well, we could. I didn't ask Luann her availability, but if we wait all the way till June, I don't know how fast her fall fills up. We could wait till June, but I was gonna say maybe in the next week or two, if you get a chance to look through it and maybe email me your top 1 or 2, probably 2 deep, just in case there's ties, and then I can pick whichever one you think is most, what would I say, most popular, picked between the 5 of you, and then I can ask Luann about that.
Yeah, I think it'd be good if we got her on the.
So the link's on the board meeting here. If you go there, you should be able to view the webinar or workshop topics. And then you can go through and look in there a little bit, and then maybe email me your top 1 or 2 choices. Let's say top 2 choices. Does that sound good? Okay. The other one, you don't have to, I think we'd be good, but if you're interested and you do the session recap, that you watch that YouTube video, let me know before the next board meeting. That won't have to be done soon, before the next board meeting, and then I'll, at the next board meeting, if you guys do that, then I will report that for our organization.
See, real quick, I got a question, jumping back up to this 2-minute board policy. So this free and reduced loss, does that have anything to do with our classifications, like in sports or anything, like A to 1A?
Oh, yeah. So right now, the only one that is affected by that is football. Based on, I gotta remember how they do this, I think it's the state average of free and reduced, and then how much above or below you are from that, how many students that's worth, you add or subtract to your classification, if I remember right.
Yeah, there's an adjustment to your,
Yep.
your beds number, plus or minus.
I thought there was something.
So then that, yeah, for football, that lowered us down, whether they're having talks to apply that to other sports or not, I don't know. That was their kind of way to look at how that worked and get around and try and address maybe some of the disparities between public and private schools, because private schools don't do free and reduced lunch. So you have to be a school that obviously offers that for it to happen.
Other states have been doing that for a while, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't say we're unique. Iowa, it wasn't like they thought of that on their own. I think they got the idea from somewhere else.
The formula is they subtract 40% of the free and reduced number. So they take your beds number. The beds number is freshman, sophomore, junior classes. Add those up, and that's your beds number, and that's what they determine classification on. But then for football, they take 40% of your free and reduced number and subtract that from your beds number, and that's your classification number then. So obviously, the higher the free and reduced population, the more you get subtracted off for classification.
Moving on to new business, consider approval of creating middle school dean of students position.
All right, so I thought, yeah, we'll have some discussion on this and vote. I thought I'd at least give some background on how we got here, and some of that information, and then feel free to ask questions, hopefully you will. So, looking at over a year, you've heard me talk about this year, cutting staff naturally. We were running some when I say we, Kendra and I, running some numbers. Roughly, remember at the beginning of the year, we had a lot of talk about this. That hasn't changed the importance of our finances. It's just they were what they were, so maybe I haven't addressed that specifically enough, but have talked about it secondhand in terms of when we have the opportunity, if someone resigns and not filling it when required, how that's the one way to reduce your expenses and not filling that. So not necessarily cutting staff, but just not filling all those positions as we talked about. So if you remember right, last fall, our UAB, our year ends June 30, but you don't know July 1 exactly how you did. That takes a while. So roughly end of August, September, we knew. And basically last year we broke even. Our UAB went down. We overspent by $8,000. Remember that conversation? But I said if we were just overspending by $8,000 for a year, we can do that for a long time before there's any worries, right? Okay. Well, yeah, projection-wise, we don't know how that'll happen this year, but right now, initial projections, and Kendra, I were just looking at that today, we're guessing this year that could go down about 400,000. Okay, which, based on what we said last fall, should hopefully be a shock somewhere in there. Hopefully, it could be a little less than that, depending on what happens with expenses. I wrote notes down so I would not misrepresent here. So that means our unspent balance, that extra spending authority, which historically we've built up high to put us in a strong position, would go down about 400,000, right? If we had a really low UAB, that would be time to worry. Right now we're at 3 million plus, so we have time to make those decisions. We don't have to do that right now, okay? That's where we're at. So we've talked about naturally making those changes to staff. Where this is coming from, I think in the last month you've seen enough correspondence with me and that I said if we don't fill all these positions, some of them that we want to fill, we might have to get creative. And just, I've been thinking and racking my brain, having some conversation with these guys on, what happens if we intended to fill the high school guidance position, but we don't get a candidate? What happens if we intend to fill that elementary SPED position, but we don't get a candidate, right? Things like that. How do we do that? How do we keep supporting staff and students? That's been a conversation. Another thing that has been kind of consistently said to me from staff, specifically about these two guys in their roles, not about them personally, but about it would be nice if we would have someone here more consistently, meaning in the building, right? Well, without another guy, I don't know how to address that. I even think since one-on-one conversations with you guys since the start of my term in July, more than one of you had asked me the question, do you think we could add back a principal? And I think I had said to the ones that had asked that question, I said, we can't afford to. Adding one without other reductions is over $100,000, right? Okay. Well, with some of these last reductions and things like that, weren't looking at doing this, but we just had resignations basically that came through and were approved last week. They were on agenda, and they're wonderful people. I'm not placing this on them. We weren't looking at that, but reality, talking to other schools, I don't know that we could fill all these things, and it's kind of hard to piecemeal at some levels, specifically the middle school, and go one grade at a time down to 2 sections. It's kind of like a lot easier schedule-wise to do this all or nothing. So when we had some of those resignations, I just asked these guys to think about this, but could we go a lot about the comments that I keep hearing? How do you, if we're gonna go down to 2 sections and I'm gonna have more kids in my class, it'd be nice to have, to make sure we have administrative support for that, okay? Not that we don't support staff, but what I hear with that is we need someone around here so that when I have 24 kids in my class, someone can respond right away. That's what I'm hearing, right? I don't know how else to address that. Had an opportunity when this happened, could we cover this with our existing staff and then have someone in this dean of students, which is used a variety of ways? Could we have someone where it wouldn't be adding staff, it would just be maybe an increase in salary to someone's position, which would be minimal compared to adding a staff member? And could we do that and use that position in a way that we would have someone consistently in the middle school, therefore allowing the high school and the elementary to have more consistent coverage by someone there? Now, there's gonna be times they might be at a meeting or we might be up here, I get that, but this way they're not spending a third or half their time. I'm gonna use Mr. Dzea here, Kent, as an example, because he has to drive over instead of walking down, that he's not in the middle school when the 3rd grade student flips over a table. I don't know, that's kind of where we're at with that. Kendra, do you have those? So this is by no means exact. This is something Kendra and I just tried to work on today, just to make some rough guesses or estimates here going into next year. These things can also change dramatically here. So the top part, the expenditures, the minus would mean savings, and not attaching names here, but just doing positions. But by not hiring or not filling that 4th grade, that's our, there we go. That's our estimated savings is what that means, right? Down 63,000. The interventionist, not filling that overall. Combining 7th and 8th grade English by not filling that one position. And you can go down the list. The teacher minimum salary increases. So when it's a positive number, those would be increased costs. So we're, for some support and other reasons, we're having our librarian here 4 days a week instead of 3. So some estimated additional costs with that. By not sharing our maintenance director, some additional costs. The teacher minimum salary increases. That's our, right now, our best guess to that's probably one of the more firm numbers that should be pretty accurate of what it would cost just to bring our staff up to those salary minimums that I mentioned just 5 minutes ago in that 2-minute. They have to get done somewhere, right? Below that new employee cost, without saying specific, but there's some staff that are coming in that may be more, have some more cost than the staff they're replacing, or less cost. So some of those are estimates, but 11,848, that would be a staff coming in, having a slightly higher salary and other benefits than the staff they're replacing. When you're down 9,000, that means that's a savings of who they're replacing, right? And so those are some of our estimated costs right there. Increasing our yearbook supplemental contract and then the work-based learning coordinator, just the rough cost that I had from the AA on that, roughly, all that factored in, down about 50,000 in expenses, okay? When I'm talking hundreds of thousands, well, why doesn't it make sense? Well, some of that comes from our teacher salary minimums, which I'll cover in a second. Obviously, that number would be bigger. There would be a bigger savings if we don't fill the counselor position, but that doesn't mean that's the right choice, right? On the bottoms would be the increase in revenues. So by keeping the AEA media funding to 60% and keeping the AEA the 60% for the general ed services, those two, I think those hopefully should look familiar to you. I've mentioned those before, but a little over 50,000. That's kind of some of those dollars is what I would use to pay for the work-based learning coordinator, and then the other cost that would come. Right now, this is where it gets a little murky. That's our best guess of what we're gonna get as of right now from TSS funding for the additional salary minimums. You can see when I've said we're not getting enough to cover the cost to get our teachers to the base, you can see right now our guess is 214,000 we're gonna get in, but it costs 260. They've said you're supposed to get dollar for dollar. When I say we're short, that's what I mean. We're at 60 minus 14, 46,000 short. We're supposed to get an adjusted number that will be closer this summer, but I don't know what that is yet. And I'm not gonna put that there till they give it to us, right? Okay? And then new money is a thing is our general fund dollars. When you factor into that TSS, the increase in the cost or the dollars per student times your students and compare that to the year before, that's called your new money. Ours is negative. We're gonna get more dollars per student next year, but we have 40 less students. So even though you get more dollars per student, in the end with 40 less students, we're gonna have less general ed funding. So that total increase in revenues there, when you factor in the decrease in expenses, we're guessing a savings of about 316. There's a lot of factors in play there that can affect that. And that could change, but that'd be our guess. Now to compare, I just said right now, our best guess, excuse me here, our best guess is we're gonna overspend by about 400,000 this year, right? So just those changes right there offsets most of that. Not all of it, but most of that. But that just gives you an idea of when I say when we've had to increase or decrease our costs, what I mean by that. So this just gives you a little factor, best case estimate of where we're at right now. So why on earth, when I've said we need to decrease costs, am I asking or looking at or proposing doing this Dean of Students thing? I want to make clear, I've said to these guys, you guys have not heard me say this, and I've said to these guys, I get the drawback to this is it doesn't look good when it looks like we're trying to eliminate our work and pass that off. That's not why. The main reason I'm looking at is number one, that's probably been the most consistent request from staff this year. Is it'd be nice if we could have an administrator in our building more often, or more consistent presence in our building. When I hear that, I don't know how to address that without another body. If we have bigger class sizes, will we have an administrator here more often? I don't know how to answer that question without having another body in there. When I've been asked about adding a principal, I've been pretty clear. Some of you have talked to me, like I said earlier, I said, no, I don't think we can afford to do that. The reason I'm saying this now is the increased cost to do this position with an existing staff member would not be hundreds of thousands. It's going to be in that $20,000 range, 25, depending on how we work that out. The definition of Dean of Students can mean a lot of different things. I didn't kind of even realize this, so someone told me the other day, historically years ago we had one, but they used that for someone who was going into the guidance counseling role. They just didn't have their degree before that temporary guidance authorization was in play. That's not what we're looking at doing. We're looking at doing this as a way to support students and staff from an administrative role. I had initially thought maybe we wouldn't need them to have their administrative endorsement. The more that I've thought about this, I think they would need to. Being an internal candidate, regardless of how we structure this, the first year for sure, and then we'd evaluate after that, but I would not have them do, since they're coming internally, I would not have them do staff evaluations. That would fall on our existing principals and we'd figure out how to divide that up. But a lot of the other stuff and the duties that come with that, I think some of those things we're pushing the line of what you can do as a Dean of Students without your admin endorsement if they don't have that. And that thereby kind of defeats the purpose of them being there. So looking at them helping out, number one, obviously with just student support, student discipline. When staff asks for someone to be down there answering those questions, they wouldn't put the schedule in place for next year, but hopefully looking at and evaluating that for the year after to help with that support and being responsive to that. Ideally, if we get into that, then maybe helping out some IEP meetings, those type of roles, helping out with some of our student support services, during the success time when we do interventions, helping coordinate that. So I think having someone there that's there every day to see that, those are just a list. We have in board policy what the expectations are principals, and I would use a lot of that. I would just pull out a lot of the evaluative functions from their job duties. So that's me doing a lot of talking. Ask questions, please.
I'm just curious, how long have we gone without a principal or administrative person in the middle school currently?
I don't fully know the answer to that, but
I feel like the
I
last
thought it was
person I
like-
remember was Mr. Moran, and that was when my oldest was in.
Mr. Hall? 2015.
I thought Mr. Moran was the last name I
That's-
ever remember being in hearing. I shouldn't say remember, hearing, been in that position. Would that be
14, 15.
14, 15 school year? Okay. So the, yeah. 2014, 2015 school year, so
10 years.
10 years roughly, 10 academic years.
And then my another question is, I'm assuming this is Ken's role, right? He foresees up to 6th grade?
Half mine, half Ken's.
Yes,
Mine
both.
is 7, 8.
Yes, both areas, because if we'd have the dean of students, then we would have them do it in the middle school, so 5.
5 through 8,
Right.
okay. So if you're gonna get a dean of students, and these two aren't gonna be having much to do then with the middle school, is there gonna be a reduce in their pay at some level to pay this position?
I had not looked at doing that, no.
But you're cutting some other responsibilities, correct?
Correct. I am.
Okay.
And you said that if you filled it within, it would be roughly a $20,000.
That'd be my guess by just their increased contract and per diem. I mean, it depends obviously who,
What would happen to
Apply.
that position, and who would we have to fill that position?
ideally, we'd have enough coverage from whoever did it to shift things around that we would not fill that position. Because if we did, that would kind of defeat the purpose, because that's like adding another position, right? If we would fill that. So, yes, I would not look at filling that position. We would absorb that, for lack of a better word.
I guess my biggest concern is if it's an adequate or appropriate switch for the students in their education.
In what way?
Yeah, well, because we're not filling so many teacher spots.
What's our class size? Is that what you're kind of
Yeah,
thinking,
okay.
like? for
If it's gonna
classroom
take away from each
sizes?
student in these classrooms, not having,
What's the change gonna be
Putting
from
them tighter.
3 to 2? Number wise.
Sections wise,
Yeah.
so.
Oh, okay, sorry, yes.
22 to 24 with 2 sections, and 16 to 18 with 3 sections
In the middle school, you're talking
in the
about.
middle school, yeah. Just kind of the difference in class size. And on grade level, how many students there are each grade.
Is there a huge need for this? I mean, I'm really, we've gone 10 years without this. We have a
Right.
decrease in numbers. I mean, Casey is just up the hallway from the middle school,
Mhm.
just a block away. I need more like detail on why the increased need right now. We've gone 10 years without this.
I think that's a
And we're
fair
in a
question.
drop in numbers. I'm trying to put it all together in my head, because there's been other people that obviously, middle school people know about this, and people have asked, and so I'm just,
Yep, I think that's a fair question, and I don't have the number one answer for that, but I think that's the question to ask. I don't know that I'd be even presenting it if I hadn't had people asking me about it. Now, I'm not saying everyone's on board with that, that's
Right,
not what I'm
right.
saying, but without a doubt, the number one comment that was made to me from staff, it'd be nice if we have someone in our building, because we don't have people to respond. And when we were doing this at the beginning of the year, I had one of the staff financial forums that was asked too. So if we have more students in our classrooms, will we be able to have an administrator here more often? How do you answer that? I mean, it's not gonna change from what it looks like now. can't duplicate them, for lack of a better, I'm not trying to be funny, I'm just, you can't, right?
Right.
So why would they need an administrator in their room? Just help me understand that a little bit.
I'm not gonna speak for anyone, but I'm gonna speak on what I hear them saying is worrying about discipline and classroom management, from lack of a better word, when you go from 16 to 24, right? And so if we're having bigger classes and more classroom management issues, can we have someone here to be more responsive to deal with it sooner? That's how I would phrase that. Not speaking for any one person there, but just kind of summarizing when I hear that concern, what they're ultimately getting at.
One thing, what you brought up, Jennifer, and I don't know if this is really comparing apples to apples here, but I do recall when I was working as school counselor and we went from 3 counselors to 2, that whole thing, there's only so many hours in a day that you're here. And I can remember when Mr. Jennison and I had that conversation, he said, what would you think of adding on 5th grade to everybody to think about? I think we have to discuss it, and I think these are good questions to bring up, and I think Stan is giving us some good information here. I don't think it's a matter of that either Mr. DeZay or Mr. Hertz, all of a sudden their load is lightened, because I think they've got plenty to keep them busy in one building. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there's sometimes, some of the things I have heard from feedback is, I wish we had the administrator here more, because there's some things that maybe aren't getting accomplished. And they can't be in 2 places. There's, like I said, there is only 2. So from my perspective, I do understand the need for it. I'm also glad that we're talking about the class size thing, because having been in a classroom, there's a little difference, even with, 6 more students, it's a little bit of a difference. Is it unmanageable? No. Are there other districts in our area that have class sizes that are, 20 to 24? Yeah. Have we been pretty fortunate? Yeah, to have those. But we do have to keep in mind our dollars and cents too. I think that's our big thing here. Put that before student needs? No, but without the money, we can't meet student needs either. So, anybody else? That's just my thoughts, and you can, please feel free to disagree with me, that's
sure
fine.
we've gone over it, but when you said there's gonna be 40 less students next year, that's going up. I'm assuming the seniors that are leaving.
You're right.
No, that's this year.
Okay.
Before.
Okay.
That was from last year to October.
When I say next year, the budget next year is based off the enrollment this year.
Okay,
I
I
didn't.
was just clarifying that
Yes,
part.
no,
that you said.
I didn't mean it, that's how we speak. For next year enrollment, the budget is based off this current year's, and we know that's down 40.
Yeah. Okay. I was just needing it right.
No.
Like, where I came from, I'm like, where?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I didn't mean to slip in, that's happening again. We don't know what that'll be right now.
Okay.
So are you saying the requirement is going to be that they're gonna have to have administrators? Or
Their license.
Oh, the administrative license endorsement, yeah.
is that something that they're gonna have to have now, or can they get it later, or?
Either they have it now or that they're working towards it, that it completed by next fall.
Are they gonna limit the amount of people you can?
Yeah, well, it will, there's not as many that have that. And I do realize that. Will that take out some people who maybe could have been, if, I'm speaking hypotheticals here, that if we do this, that would be good that don't have that? Yeah, potentially it would. But I think what you guys are getting at, the need, if we do this and the real need and the purpose to have some someone consistently over there with their duties. If they don't have that, I think we're not getting the full benefit out of it, because there'll be enough things that we need an administrator over there to take care of that. The real reason we're doing this is so we have someone consistently, for the most part, in each building, right? And I think if they don't have that, then we're not getting the benefit out of it that
So then you're
we're
leaning-
intending to do.
You're gonna lean toward more of a full-time than the part-time.
Right, I put part at the time, because depending on who, when I say part or full-time, they'll be employed here full-time. But depending on who applies and gets it, you know, how that works out in the schedule, if they would need them to do 2 periods a day, so they might have to teach 2 periods a day and be the dean for the
So
other.
the other part of that too is that, okay, they needed an endorsement there too, so you're also limiting the person to do in-house, because you can't really take a person away that already is down to 2 sections.
Yes, although we don't have anyone technically there yet. Right.
Do you think